The Coffee People podcast is presented by Roastar Coffee Packaging. Roastar is a digital printing company that makes custom printed packaging for coffee products. They work with small, mid, and large coffee roasters nationwide. Go to roastery.com to learn more about their fast turnaround times, high-quality packaging products, sustainability efforts, and low printing minimums, which enable your small business to tell a really big story. If you are ready to upgrade those coffee bags, go to roastery.com. I know you are. I intentionally did not watch your YouTube channel before this because I wanted to learn all of this with you.
Cool.
But I
Good.
was a little nervous because you have so much content out there that I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to keep up in this interview.
Oh no, I feel like it's a good idea to come in with a fresh blank slate,
Yeah.
I think that's more fun for sure. And yeah, however you want to run it, it's all good. There's going to be value somewhere for someone.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Coffee People podcast, which is part of the Roast West Coast Coffee Network and presented by Roastar Coffee Packaging. If you're a small business roasting excellent coffee, you want it to be showcased in an equally stellar package. Find what you're looking for at roastery.com. I'm Ryan Woldt, and this is the Coffee Podcast where we meet interesting people connected to the world of coffee. Today's episode is the very first of Season 9. And if you're listening the morning this drops, it is also the 3-year anniversary of Roast West Coast. More on that later in the show. Right now, I want to tell you about our first guest of the season, Meg Le Vu of Black City Coffee in Chino Hills, California. Besides being the founder and head roaster, Meg also has a popular YouTube channel where she has been documenting the evolution of her life in coffee. You'll find links to that channel in this episode's podcast notes and on roastwestcoast.com. Okay. Man, it has been a minute since I have been in the booth recording one of these intros, and I'm excited to get this season underway. I'm gonna need to brew a second cup of coffee. I think I'll go do that while you listen to this interview with Meg Le Vu, the founder, head roaster, and content creator behind Black City Coffee.
My name is Meg Le Vu. I am the roaster, owner, hobbyist for Black City Coffee Roasters here in Chino, California.
I have a ton of questions. Hopefully we get into most of them, but I'd like to start just a little bit of some backstory about you. Obviously you have Black City Coffee Roasters now, but what were you doing before? Who were you in that world before this came about?
Yeah, before coffee was just, regular coffee drinker. I still currently work. Like I said, this is a hobby for me. I've, officially decided and told my audience, I was like, hey, I'm not going to pursue this as a career because I was really, really thinking about it and really trying to consider it. But we were looking at it as a terms of where the grass is greener versus wedding photography, which is what we do now, which I'm currently doing. So my role in wedding photography is to handle all the client meetings, client consult, email, coordination, sort of like a manager and a gopher, if like, that's just what you do when you have your own business. So we're a husband and wife team. We're kind of family run. My sister works with us. So we're a really tight crew over here. And that's our moneymaker, our breadwinner. And that's how I'm able to roast on a Mill City roaster for a hobby, dude. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, and then before that, I was got my degree in health science, and I inspected for the county of Riverside hazardous materials waste management, and I would just go around to every business and inspect them. Yeah, that's what I did before.
That's intense. Did you have to wear like a hazmat suit?
No. That was only for like if you were gonna, decontamination and things like that, and we trained in that. I even trained in like how to arrest someone. That was crazy. And we did a
Oh,
lot of
cool.
training and things like that. And you got to work with fire department and police and like DEA, so like drugs and meth and stuff like this. So we had a lot of that in Riverside County, where you get to just be on site and observe. But I never had any real interaction with something too crazy. It was the most that I got to deal with is like, oh, we had a diesel tank fall over on the 10 freeway. Go make sure they're doing everything correctly, basically. Yeah.
I used to own a wedding photography company. I was a wedding photography for
Well, hey.
almost 10 years. I'm just going to throw it out there that I think working with weddings might be more insane than working with contaminated materials. So if you're out there getting married, be nice to your wedding photographer. It's a long day. They're very hungry by the end of it.
Yes.
Just be nice. You said a little bit ago that you told your audience. Could you tell my audience what you were referring to there? You have a very successful content creation company.
Well, it's not a content creation company. What I did was I got a hot top, and I was doing that as a hobby to save money to roast coffee. I made a video about it because there was really not a lot of content out there because I was confused. I was legit confused on what to do. And I was like, you know what? I'm already used to making content. I will just make a 20-minute video, 30-minute video about all my grievances and the pluses and the minuses and the love for it. I wouldn't go through all this if I didn't love it. So I made a video and that did fairly well and people were grateful for it. And I was like, you know what? This is fun. I like documenting my struggle and me learning and being like, why does this taste the way that it tastes and how to roast this and whatever. And then I really fell in love with it. And then we got that Mill City roaster. And then I was starting to really consider, do I want a career in coffee? And I was just really unsure about it. I never really fell, forward into that, still being like an entrepreneur. I just never really did it. And I was like, well, why? Like, if I love it so much, why do I have this personal block with it? And so I decided to discover that and explore that with content. So I don't make content for any other like businesses or anything. It's all for in-house stuff. So for Black City Coffee, yes, I blog about coffee and I have a YouTube channel and I've just slowly been growing that and people tune in. It's a very small audience, but we're tight and it's a cool community. It's cool. And I don't find myself on one side of the fence or the other. I'm just like, this is what I do. Take it or leave it. And I like that better versus espousing beliefs or whatever like that. Even though maybe you'll find a video where I do that, where I'm like, it must be this way or whatever. And then you'll see the progression of just who I am as a person, how I've evolved. And it's all there for you if you wanted to waste your life. But like, it's, I mean, I'm just
Don't say that. I don't want people to question listening to this show either.
No, I mean my channel and all the old stuff. I'm just not that person anymore. But I leave it there to show that that's what a human is that we evolve and we change our mind and we change our opinion and we grow, And I thought that coffee was a great medium to do that personally. I like this. I like making content and talking about the personal growth and just getting a little bit more like in depth on the psychological things that go on in your brain. And I think it's a really cool medium to explore that. I always did that before coffee, but I feel like coffee and self-growth and self-help is kind of an icky word nowadays, but like, I like doing that stuff. It's supernatural for me. It's therapeutic for me. So I don't have a company per se, like I just make content. And
you're prolific. I will say that. There's a lot of comes out. If you're listening to this show somewhere in the world, there's a link to Meg's show in the podcast notes, wherever you're listening. I promise you that. So you can go and watch it after this interview. Since we are talking about coffee, I'm wondering if you had a first experience with coffee that made you think, yeah, this is interesting. Maybe you weren't at a point where you're going to say, this is a medium I'm going to use to express myself yet. But something that kind of struck you as this is more than just a cup of coffee somewhere.
Yeah. That was with learning how to roast coffee on the hot top, for sure.
Well, what made you do that even the first time? Like, what on earth would make you think, oh, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to try to roast coffee on this hot top and it's going to be drinkable.
Right.
That's a big
Yeah, it took
jump.
a while. Yeah, it's a big jump. Okay, well, I was buying coffee like in a bag, right? That you do in a cafe, and you're looking for something high quality and kind of highbrow. And the only reason I got to that point was because my sister, who was an avid cafe goer, would give me coffees that were outside of my scope of buying coffee, like so from the grocery store or whatever it may be, right? And so I tasted something light. It messed with me, and I was like, "What is this?" And it messed with my mind. And then by the end of the bag, I was really like enamored with it. Like why did that was so interesting? Like so coffee can taste like this. And so that spark led me to buy better coffee. So I'm buying better coffee from other people and other roasteries. And then my husband is like always trying to think of the next, entrepreneurial idea. He's like, you know what? You're spending a lot on coffee. These are like $20 bags of coffee. Can you save money and like roast your own? Wouldn't that be better? Wouldn't you like to do that and maybe like do a business? He's like getting me to he was always trying to get me to like start another business so we could stop wedding photography. This grass is always greener thingy. And I'm like, I don't know. I really love coffee. If I turn into a business, it's probably not going to be something I love anymore. It'd probably just be a job. And he's like, no, but like, we're going to get old, and maybe I'm not going to be able to shoot, when I'm like 50 years old. Maybe try. And I was like, okay, I'll try, but I want to do it the right way. And so the right way for me was an artisan 2K plus because you could monitor your roasts and do the whole roast profile thing and kind of that little hot top, which was a drum, electric powered, but still a drum. So I was like, hey, this is mimicking what the big boys do, at Starbucks and such. They have a big old drum roaster. I want to mimic that and just kind of see, And that was like in my head that was the parallel. Okay, if they do that, but I'm doing it on a very miniature scale, let me just investigate what that's about. I mean, the machine still cost like $2,000 at the time or something, so it was still quite an investment. But I was down for the learning. I had like just dived into the rabbit hole of like roast theory, trying to read everything that I could. Rao was in my ear at this time, so that's basically the only like consensus in terms of like roast theory. And I was like, okay, let me just try. And I really fell in love with the art and science kind of vibe that people say about coffee roasting. Coffee roasting is both intuition and science, or art and science. And I was like, oh, that's kind of like how photography is. So I was making a lot of parallels to what we were already doing. And then when I made a video on it, I was like, yo, this is up my alley. I make content anyway. I'd love to do that. It was just like a match. I've been in the podcasting world a little bit before. Like I was kind of like almost a part of that, the podcast movement space, 2012-ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was trying to do that a little bit. I kind of got at it. I didn't like the vibes there too much in the end of it all. And I was like, well, I still like talking on camera and talking about things and making content and that sort of thing. So maybe these are a match. And so that's sort of like what kept going. And then there was a positive response on YouTube, but I was like, cool. I mean, I would have done it without it because I like to do it. I was like, because a lot of roasting, learning how to roast in the beginning is very frustrating, but then you love it and you're like, so I still needed to do it anyway, for my own sanity.
That's a really interesting point, and I think one that is common to a lot of home coffee roasters, hobbyists who turn professional, selling their product, is that they're doing this anyway, and they have to figure out how to justify it in the rest of their life. I know for
Justify it,
me,
yes. Yeah.
this show is 100% something that has to come out. And it gives me incredible anxiety thinking about building up to every
Yeah.
episode, but I have to
Yeah.
do it. And I'm so
Right.
excited and I have such a great time doing it. But then I had to figure out, how do I spend all this time where I'm not like doing something else? And that's why the
Yeah.
show is a business.
Got it. Yeah.
You start roasting, you're kind of growing in that world. You have a science and art background, which is kind of interesting that it led you this way. And the
Yeah.
channel comes about. When did you start thinking that you were growing enough that you wanted to turn just roasting for yourself into a bit of a brand that maybe you shared? You haven't decided yet. This isn't going to be the future.
Mm.
So what motivated a brand and kind of this is a representation of what I'm doing and giving it to people to try?
Right.
What did that feel like?
It felt like just a natural progression of things. I'm someone who loves to like put my stamp on stuff and personalize it. And if I buy something, I want to now make it mine. So if I buy something, it's awesome already, cool. And now my little touch is like I put a little stamp on it. I engrave it. I buy something that is homemade or I made, and now it's mine. So I'm like that. I'm like a craftsman. I like to do that stuff. Like if you find me in my spare time, I'm always trying to like invent something to solve a particular problem at home, like build something or whatever. And I get that from my dad, who's always just like inventing stuff and like tweaking it just a bit. I also get it from my husband. He's taught us all how to shoot in his style because that's really the only way it works. And so we call it KOV standard over here, but basically he has a certain eye, and what he'll do is like he'll maybe see something that he likes, but it's not his yet. So he'll put his tweak on it and put his stamp on it until it fits what he's looking for. And I can recognize it. I could pick it out of the bunch and I could be like, oh, yeah, you did something here or whatever. Like you put your little spin on it. So I'm kind of inspired by those two things. Even my mom, who would be like, she would watch Jada De Laurentiis on the Food Network back in the day when we were in high school, right? And she's like, oh, I don't have the sun-dried tomato. What can I do to mimic the flavor with what I have here, with the ingredients that I have here? So I have those three sort of things like always churning in the back of my mind. Like if I haven't put my touch on it, it's not mine yet. Like I want to make something new.
What I was going to ask is about the name and the branding, the touch you did put on this roasting. Where did that come from and what does it mean?
So what we have now is like a third iteration of the sentiment, which is to be curious and discover coffees that you love. And that sort of thing that like, I was like, man, I love that feeling of like discovering something new and following my curiosity like that. The first iteration was like the two panthers is sort of like, what do you call, like an emblem or coat of arms. I really love this idea of something herald, something old and pure and like coming from like years of tradition. So those are the things that are sort of like running through my mind when I designed my first logo. And then I did a second one just because I had to. They were like, this is very low resolution. Can you give us something better? And I was like, well, dang, I can't replicate. I don't know how to do that. I'll just make a new one and make it full resolution so that you can print whatever I was trying to print. And then I was like, okay, let's roll with it. I'm a quick start. I'm just like, if it checks all the boxes for me on a big picture, I'm going. I'm not like it has to be perfect. The problem is like you waste a lot of money doing time and money. You waste time and money making very fast decisions like that. Anyway, I get to this point where I'm at a crux. I'm like, I think I'm gonna take it to a business. I think we're gonna become a business, and I want to maybe like get a warehouse and do that and become a roaster, not a cafe, a roaster. That was like a big distinction for me. Again, I don't think you need to do this. This is me. This is a personal itch that I have, I think, as an artist. I like to put my stamp on things. So I hit up Jared's designer from Hasea Coffee Source. He's like, yeah, he's great. His name is Nathan. And he's really good in his like, discovering a mark for you or a logo, right? I was like, cool, let's do it. It's a high investment. It's well worth it. It's so in depth in terms of like the questions that he asks you in terms of what do you mean when you say this, and how can we translate that into design? And so we came up with this mark of like, it still has all the heraldry there. It has the two panthers. It has the shield in the center. We kind of explored this as a means of this upward movement. You see that like triangle there. There's a lot of triangles sort of like within the mark itself. This upward movement of always progressing forward, always evolving, which I really bring in my my YouTube channel, sort of moving forward all the time. And the shield of like kind of protecting this idea of good coffee, good ideas, good faith, and we can go on and on and on about it. I have many videos on it. You talked about prolific. Like I went so in depth and shared because he invoked that from me during our meetings, which I thought was so helpful. And I thought people like would benefit from that because a lot of times we just do what I do, which was like, yo, I'm feeling this, make it. And it's kind of maybe sloppy, a little messy, a little busy. And how do we distill that? We talked a lot about distilling these ideas down to these very like more powerful marks. And so we have this like on IG, it's just a circle with the arrow or the mountain or that progressive movement forward. And it's a little off center too, because yeah, we're not perfect. I was like, oh dude, you are so good. Like, I love that. Let's do it.
Do you find that same kind of theory, that same distillation of ideas has rolled over onto your roasting efforts?
Yeah.
Where in the beginning you were like, I got this thing and I'm going to try these cool new things and see what I like. And now you have more of a, hey, we're progressing forward in both quality and understanding of what we're doing.
Oh yeah, totally. If I wasn't like so, I think learn to forgive myself through that because it tends to, I think, roasting you're kind of like feel this like self pressure to be perfect because you know where this coffee came from. Once you learn where coffee comes from, you're like, oh my God, it's so hard, it's so difficult. Like oh my God, I'm so grateful. Like you don't want to mess up, you don't want to waste. And then I think that lended for me anyway. That was my experience. I was like, oh my God, this is precious, and it still is. But then to run a business with it, okay, now you have to think like a business person. They contrast each other, right? This sort of like being grateful, conserving, purist, purity, and then scale, money, profit, like in America, in California, it's very expensive here, blah, blah, blah. So these things, they kind of like counter each other. And I think as a roaster, when you're learning to roast, this pressure to be perfect is daunting. It's overwhelming. And that's why people get hella caught up on like the roast curve. Why is my number not like your number? I don't want to mess up, And that's why I started to make content about it. I was like, yo, I feel that. I totally get it. At the same time, we must just move forward, okay? Like everything can be true still, but we can still have it in our intention and then the way that we produce and the way that we share information and help others and da da da. Like we can still do this in a good way, in a feel good way.
Sure,
Yeah.
maybe, and I'm just, as I'm listening to you and knowing a little bit about your background now, you're essentially kind of the middle part of this science experiment. Somebody grew that coffee somewhere and it ended up with you as the roaster, and you're pushing that coffee to another level. Somewhere on the other side of that, someone's going to brew that coffee and kind of decide the final outcome. And like any good science study, there's going to be a lot of experiments performed to make sure that you're getting there. And so just because one doesn't turn out maybe the way you thought, that doesn't mean it's not part of this bigger chain of progression and improvement.
Right. Yeah. I think this like bigger picture sort of appreciation for the whole chain, Jared likes to I love going to his classes from Hasea Coffee. He's like, yeah, you're just, the roasters are part of the chain and we're all part of the chain. We're all important. And this whole thing doesn't work if we all don't, create a win-win situation for everybody. It's got to be a win-win, right? So he's always saying that. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. I'm just a part of this bigger chain. So a lot of it in the beginning is like, you're so worried about you, is a little, narcissistic, which is natural. It's kind of like being a little baby. You go to your adolescence and then you mature and you're like, oh, the world, we're a part of the world. We're all part of this big, beautiful chain. And you're like, okay, I'm going to get over myself.
What do you call it when you're where I'm at and you're like, oh, I just want to be left alone?
Yeah. Hermitdom.
That's probably pretty accurate. I did build a little bunker here in my closet to talk to people.
I know, that's so cool.
If you are serious about roasting great green coffee, you need to check out the Hosea Coffee Source Green Coffee column on roastwestcoast.com. Hosea Coffee Source is a premier green coffee importer, and they serve roasters of all sizes. Every month, Hosea's co-founder and green coffee buyer, Jared Hales, joins us to break down the finer points of green coffee. Find the link to that column in this podcast's show notes. Sourcing coffees, you've mentioned Hosea Coffee Source, our mutual collaborator and friend. How did you, find a place to source coffees? I assume you didn't just, if you got lucky and found one right away and that was great, but then even though you are working with someone, you still have to have an ethos about what coffees you want to try to work with. How did you find that place and how is it evolving?
Sourcing. My first was because I took a cupping class at Bodie, and Jared used to be at Bodie, and he ran the whole thing there. And that's when I was like, yo, this is crazy. And I cupped before I roasted. I still didn't know what I was doing. People were banging their spoons everywhere. It was crazy. And I was like, oh my God, I like it. And then that's where I learned, you have green coffee, raw coffee first, and then it goes to this, right? So he always explains what you're doing, even at the cupping session. And I was like, okay, I'll just get my coffee from Bodie because it's so cheap, right? I was like, oh my God, raw coffee is $5 a pound. And I was thinking I was going to save a lot of money or something. I was so excited. And then lo and behold, right? I'm like 20 grand in or whatever. So I started source from Bodie first. And then I think, Jared left Bodie and started his own thing. And then how did we get in contact? I think I was looking up another cupping class because I was like, yo, I want to learn more. And then I find him, I think, on the internet. I forget how I found his cupping course, but he does his cupping courses. I take him, I chit chat with him a little bit at the new place in Anaheim. And he's like, yeah, so now I source all these coffees and I'll tell you the difference between good coffee sourcing and not good coffee sourcing, and freshness, arrival, harvest, first pick, second pick, different lots. So he's giving me the insider track, right? And I'm learning a ton. And then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna buy from you now, And I was buying smaller quantities of coffee. And then he opened up this new door, which is the 20-kilo bag, which really was like really great for home roasters. And people were just like, well, I don't want to do the 5-pounder. That's so small. But I don't want to get the 60-kilo bag or whatever it is. That's a lot, So he offered something in between. He offered something competitive for home roasters or people who are just little small like me, and is now flourishing, right? So I think he's really grown from there. So that's how I found coffee, and now I just exclusively buy from him just because it's so easy for me and I trust him completely.
The trust in that relationship. Our relationship with the world is based on trust, and we can make choices on who we engage with. I think about this a lot as somebody who's always buying coffee and making choices. Part of my job is to go to different places. And so I'm always going, okay, would this be a place I would come back to because I trust they're making decisions on their side that fit the values that I have about the world. And to find that is such a rare thing. You were mentioning cuppings. I just I got to the end of a group cupping. And if anyone is listening, a group cupping is kind of like a dance because you're all working your way around a cupping table with all these different coffees to try with 1 or 2 spoons in your hand that you're also trying to at least pretend to be clean. I hate to say it that way, but like you're dipping that spoon and
don't think too hard when you're doing a group cupping.
Yeah, make sure you trust the people you're with. That's all I'm going to say about that. I hear this a lot, but being a female-fronted roasting operation, even on a hobbyist level, does that matter to you? Is it something you wish I didn't even ask about, or is it something that you? I mean that seriously because should it matter? Maybe not. I don't know, but it is something that when I look at like the list of guests that I have on this show, the ratios are not always even. Of whether it's,
Is it all men?
Not always. Some seasons we are 50-50, but it's
Huh?
never 70-30 one way or another. And I hear from a lot of women roasters in particular that the industry feels like it's mostly men and traditionally has been. And I'm curious if you felt that or notice it or care and if it matters. And if it does, what does it mean?
Yeah, yeah. For me personally, I did notice it was all male, but it didn't matter to me. I'm a I'm a tomboy, if people haven't already guessed, but I happen to married all this stuff. I never minded playing in the boys' room and being one of the boys. It was always that was where my fun was. So throughout growing up, I was always had action figures, Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men, and then always had Barbies. So I've really kind of just like wherever my interests go, I follow, and I don't really care the fact that I'm a girl. And it's never really gotten in the way of anything. Now, have I had instances of where sexism has played into like some kind of like annoyance? Sure, especially being in the wedding photography industry. I would always shoot, I was second photographer, I would shoot all the men. And yeah, some of them, I don't know, they hit on you or they treat you a certain way, or I don't know, that like less respect for sure. I still get that today. And that's probably also too because I look like I'm 13 sometimes. If I like don't put on the proper attire and makeup, I look really young, even though I'm like 37. So I get it. But personally, to me, it does not motivate anything that I do in terms of like in coffee. I'm sort of like, my personal thing is like, I'm very purist about coffee. When I'm doing things with coffee, I do them for me and how I feel like I think it should be done. But the message that I give to others, which I've evolved this because I was pretty authoritarian about it. But I've evolved this, and I'm like, you just need to do you. I'm showing you what I do, and I always try to make that very clear. I'm like, this is what I'm doing. I'm not motivated by my sex, you know. And the fact that there were so many men, I don't know. I was just like, oh, cool. Like, so there's space for me. And if there were women, I'd be like, cool. I'm encouraged. And that's not to say that I don't understand what it means to be a woman here and as a roaster and making content, because I've had women talk to me who are way more successful than me in coffee, and they're like, I watched your video, I was inspired, and I chased my dream, and I'm now doing it. And I'm like, dude, that's so dope. And I understand that it is really like imperative to see people who are like you doing the things that you want to do. I think that that helps tremendously. It doesn't discount the fact that if you want it, you need to go get it. You need to be accountable. Don't blame, like, this is my personal belief, don't blame not seeing something to not go and chase your dream or something like that. For example, I forgot you're going to film me in front of my gun wall here, but like, I don't want to be political. I'm learning to be a hunter right now. And I don't have any women friends in hunting. I don't have any male friends in hunting. I have no friends in hunting. Okay. And then trying to find women in California who hunt, it's very rare. It's hard for me right now. And I'm like, man, please, somebody who's listening to this podcast, if you want to help me, I don't care if you're a woman or you're a man or whatever, but like, it would have helped me to be like, oh, cool, she's a woman, she hunts, she's not afraid, because I'm afraid. I'm afraid to go by myself into the brush and try to hunt little baby quails. Like, I'm not baby quails, sorry.
I'm going to give you the email addresses to all of my cousins back home in the
Oh my
Midwest because
gosh.
they all hunt.
Hook me up, Brian.
I
Yeah,
will.
I need a mentor. But so like that with the hunting thing, it would have helped me to see somebody close to me, or somebody who was talking about it, making content, talking about how scary it is for a woman because hunting is a male dominated sport. Do they feel like they're going to pull something? We're all armed, but I don't want to be, I don't know, I don't want to be in a sticky situation. And I think having somebody who could help voice my fears and assuage those fears would be great. And so that's what I think me roasting as a woman is doing for women, dealing with heavy machinery at home. What is that? What's that like? For sure. Like, I didn't learn how to smoke barbecue until like the pandemic. So I never dealt with propane. I never dealt with things like this, regulators, stuff like this. So the fact that I made videos on it, I think it helped a lot of women get over those tiny little fears that they had in their head. But
Sure.
it doesn't motivate me personally.
But I mean, having representation means it's possible.
It's possible. Yeah.
My parents were entrepreneurs, and I didn't think about it at the time, but I saw how hard they worked and I saw what they went through. And they had 3 sons, and all of us own our own business now. And I don't
That's
think
so
that's an
cool, dude.
accident, because I never, even in my career working for other people, I never thought it wasn't possible. I knew it was going to be hard because I saw what they had gone through. I knew that I might be poor and I might be wealthy and I might be, there's going to be a wide range of where this could go. But I knew that it could be done. And the worst that could happen would be that I would fail. And I have failed and I have succeeded. And you kind of go through all of those things. Like life is hopefully long and you have different experiences.
Very true.
I'm wondering if there's something that you've learned over the last couple of years in coffee specifically, a lesson that you've taken away from it that you might want to impart to other people since we have this platform to share.
For me, what's interesting to me is that coffee is always changing. As a roaster, you have some green coffee in it, like it changes. It doesn't just stay that, right? So it'll get older. It'll maybe, like, depending on the ambient temperature that it's being stored or how you roast it, or there's so many variables. And I was like, yo, this is so parallel to life, like, or to yourself. Like, you're just never the same. You're just always growing. It's a parallel to life. And I find that really humbling and inspiring and, like, exciting, because there's always something to grow into and learn. And there's always a next adventure with coffee too. I'm like, ooh, what is this? Like, what is this varietal? How is this going to act? Or, oh, it's like 3 years old now. What's it going to do now? And so I really love that ever changing thing that's happening with coffee. And even if we look back, if we zoom out, what's happening with, like, where coffee's coming from, different technology, different people who are coming into the space and creating content, more home roasters. There's been this explosion of, like, so many coffee brands, right? In the last, I think, 3 years or so. And so that's really interesting to follow. So coffee in itself, just the green itself, it's like this reverberating thing that's just, like, always changing, rippling out. And it's really cool to be a part of that. And to be a part of the roasting world is really interesting too. A lot of things happening in the roasting world. And I just get to be like, oh, cool. This is cool. And then, and I've found my people too. The people in coffee world, in the world of roasting versus, say, the barista world, which I feel like is a different vibe. I feel like I've found my people in a way. I've never had a lot of, like, friends growing up. It's always like I'm like a one person at a time kind of gal, or very small groups of people. But it's cool to find a community where we're all, like, we're all speaking in terms of, like, roast curves and greens and, like, what this thing does at first crack and what was crazy. Oh, you got to do it gentle. Oh, you roast it really fast. So we have this, secret language, this sort of club, which happens when you're a nerd about anything. And I think that's so fun and it's so cool.
People recognize passion in another person. And if it's passion about the same thing that they have, it's like this immediate connection. We can be totally different from different places, different histories. We don't even know each other's backgrounds. It doesn't matter because we have this thing that we can bond over. And I love that about coffee generally.
Totally.
When I get into a room with a bunch of roasters, I know that I'm going to just sit in the corner and be quiet because I don't know what's going on. You mentioned earlier on that this isn't your full-time job. You're claiming hobbyist, but you do have a presence and you do roast and sell coffee. How are you connecting with people? How are you selling? How can people support you if they're listening to the show? Support this effort and your willingness to share that story with them in the future.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for even listening and being here with us and being part of Coffee World. I think when you make that first step, I think that's really special. If you want to come and support Black City Coffee, I roast on a little 1K machine, and we do 12-ounce bags. I think I'm mostly known for not my coffee, it's painful to say, but it's for my YouTube content. If people say that to me, I'm like, oh, don't, you're stabbing me right now. Even though I know I do it to myself, because I put a lot of effort into, I guess it seems like I put a lot of effort into making content, but to tell you a secret, it's really easy for me to do that. Like, that's more second nature than me trying my darndest to roast your coffee orders when they come in. It's actually inverse. But then people are looking at me like, dude, I can never get on camera. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, but it's so easy for me to do it. And that's just how it is. Yeah, I would love to be known more for my coffee, but the truth of the matter is I'm just not that good yet. Maybe, perhaps. That's always my impersonator
I've
syndrome
tried your
coming into
coffee
play.
and quite enjoyed it, so I don't know that I would say
Yay,
that.
Ryan likes it. I know there's always this silly voice in the back of my head. I'm trying. I'm getting over it. Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube. I'm always vlogging about something. I'm gonna put out another video after this interview. And then we sell coffee, of course, and your order comes in and I roast it to order. So yeah, that's what I do.
Well, let's say you're not roasting. You're going to get up. You're going to hit the road, and you stumble into a new coffee shop. What is
Yeah.
it that you order?
I order, if you have whole bean coffee, I'll check that out first, and I'll do that because I'm not a cafe drinker and hanger outer, just not. But if I have to have a coffee order, I would go for espresso with nothing, or Americano if I don't really maybe trust your espresso, or if you have something interesting going on with your drip, I'll go for a drip, and it's always black. And then if I'm with other people, or if I'm at Phil's Coffee, I'll get the mint thing, that sugary mint ice cream goodness.
Coffee is always meets you where you are in the moment.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. That's perfect.
That's my hope anyway. Is there anything that I missed that I should have asked you or that you wanted to share today?
No, I think you covered everything. I was when you send me over all the questions and stuff, I was like, yeah, that's all good. The woman one, I was like, maybe I should be more careful or conscious or choosy about that, right? Just because I don't want to upset anyone, but I do want to be very transparent and honest. I always want to be honest.
Sure.
And so that's the only one I actually reviewed.
That's actually a question too that I always think about when I send it. And I send it because it's come up with other interviews that I've done where I've been told, hey, I wish you'd ask me about this. But
Okay.
I also want to be respectful. And it's one of the reasons why, if anyone's listening, I do send a list of topics and potential topics. We don't always get to everything to our guests because it's not about like, this isn't gotcha journalism. I'm not on the news or something. This is about learning stories and sharing what we care about. And in this case, it's coffee and experiences.
Right.
Meg, I really just appreciate your transparency. I'm excited to actually start watching the YouTube channel that I do subscribe to.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Okay, as always, we end this show with some key takeaways. Meg has made the decision to be a hobbyist coffee roaster. I'd offer up the term semi-pro. She's pursuing the improvement of her roasting skills and selling coffee, but she also has a full-time career, running a wedding photography business with her husband. I don't know the tipping point when a hobby becomes a business, but I think it might be when you realize you need to get a business credit card so you can claim some tax deductions. I think it's important that everyone listening, and this has nothing to do with coffee, but you should be nice to your wedding photographers. If you're at a wedding, be nice to the photographer. They've had a long day. They're probably hungry, and let's be honest, they are dealing with some of the more insane members of your family. So be sure they get a plate at dinner. Our guest today, Meg, has been sharing her life and the evolution of her coffee journey on her YouTube channel. which you can find at one of the many links in this show's notes. The YouTube channel is pretty fascinating. She clearly loves roasting coffee, but she doesn't shy away from sharing her frustrations and putting her growth out there as well. Her channel reflects that in both her evolution as a coffee roaster and also as a human. During the show, Meg quickly mentioned Rao. She was referring to Scott Rao, the well-known coffee consultant and author. If you search Rao, I promise you will find about 1 billion links. One thing I took from this conversation today, and from many of the chats I've had with roasters, is that the act of roasting coffee isn't just about the production process. It is also an opportunity at self-expression. For Meg, she's encouraging us all to be curious and discover coffees that we love. A huge thank you to Meg Le Vu of Black City Coffee for taking the time to chat with us today and for being the very first guest on Season 9 of Coffee People. You can find all the important links from this podcast on roastwestcoast.com and in the show's notes. You can also skip right to blackcitycoffee.com, that's BLK City Coffee, if you want to try some of their coffee. Before we give a virtual high five to all of our incredible industry partners, I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of you listening to this show, or the Coffee Smarter podcast, or reading the newsletters. When I saw on the calendar that we've been running this thing for 3 years, my first thought was, holy shit. Apologies, excuse my language, but that is the truth. There's no way this would have survived this long. There's no way I would have stuck this out if it wasn't for the lift I've gotten from those of you who've reached out with questions, to encourage me, to give a suggestion, or even a critique. Every time I thought I might be hitting a wall, someone, somewhere, would reach out and give me a lift. I wish I would have thought to tell you all in that moment how much it meant. You are not just listeners out there, you are part of this show. So, this next coffee is for you. For me, Roast West Coast started as a hobby and became my business, but it has always been a labor of love. I love doing this, so thank you for supporting it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's 3, 1 for each year. And if you're listening to this show for the first time, head to roastwestcoast.com to sign up for our newsletter so you don't miss any of these interviews or any of the Coffee Smarter education podcasts. Also, check out our newest columns celebrating baristas of the industry, on green coffee, and on what a day in the life of a coffee roaster is like. And hey, speaking of support, this show continues to be free because listeners and readers sign up for those free and paid versions of the newsletter. Shout out to our newest subscriber from Thomas and Fisk Artisan Coffee Roasters and the support of our great sponsors, like Roastar Coffee Packaging. Our presenting sponsor coincidentally hails from my hometown of Wausau, Wisconsin, where they create excellent coffee packaging that tells the big stories of small business coffee roasters. Learn more at roastar.com. As for the rest of our industry partners, most have been with us for the long haul, so thanks to Ignite Coffee Company, Maria Coffee, Cape Horn Coffee Importers, Zumbar Coffee and Tea, Ascend Coffee Roasters. I'll actually be there this Sunday if you want to stop by and have a coffee with me. Mostra Coffee Company, Steady State Coffee Roasting, San Franciscan Roaster Company, Crossings Coffee, Acento Coffee Roasters, Camp Coffee Company, Civets Roasting Machines, First Light Coffee Whiskey, Hasea Coffee Source, and Coffee Cycle Roasting. Chris O'Brien, the owner and head roaster of Coffee Cycle Roasting, has been my collaborator and coffee expert on the Coffee Smarter podcast. Be sure to follow that podcast wherever you are listening to this one. We'll help you brew a better cup of coffee at home. I also want to shout out Marco and Danny, the winners of our recent coffee bean guessing game at the San Diego Mountain Biking Association's annual Trail Fest. This show is part of the Roast West Coast Coffee Network, and this episode has been written, produced, and recorded by me, Ryan Woldt. Always tip your baristas and be sure to drink good coffee. This podcast is supported by Ignite Coffee Company in Oceanside, California. You can also find them online at ignitecoffeecompany.com. Founder Tyler Whitehead is a third-generation Oceanside entrepreneur whose dream has always been to provide a welcoming space where his fellow community members can mingle, study, and even create the plan to pursue their own dreams, all over a cup of really, really, really good coffee. That's 3 reallys, so you know it's true. Visit Ignite Coffee Company on Mission Avenue in downtown Oceanside, or order coffee beans roasted fresh for you on ignitecoffeecompany.com. Hello? Are you still there? You know the show's over, right? But since you're here, please subscribe to our paid newsletter at roastwestcoast.com. Why, you ask? Well, for starters, you'll get access to all of our podcasts ad-free. So no need to hit that skip forward button a half a dozen times anymore. And you'll be supporting not just the craft coffee community, but the creators of this coffee content. The difference between dedicating some of our life to coffee and all of it is the support of our paid subscribers. And finally, you're part of a cool club with access to all that we offer on roastwestcoast.com, including the archives, discounts on merch, and shoutouts on the show. There's more, but really, the simple best reason to subscribe is because you love coffee. You want to uplift the community and support the creators of Coffee People, ensuring future podcasts and newsletters. I can promise that those of us on this side of the microphone are eternally grateful for the support. Thank you.